Hi, welcome back to online classes in political theory. In the previous class, I discussed Marxist theory of alienation. Starting with commonsensical understanding of the concept of alienation, I explained Hegelian view of alienation and discussed Marxist critique of Hegelian identification of alienation with externalization. Then I presented how Marx differed with Adam Smith, who viewed labor as something imposed, and explained Marx's understanding of labor as innate quality of human beings. Then I discussed how this labor, which is so integral to human beings, gets distorted in the capitalist societies, making the worker hate labor and production process, and then becomes alienated from human nature and fellow human beings. This alienation, according to Marx, disappears only in higher stage of communism, where commodity production and the institution of private property ceases to exist. In this lecture, I will read out some passages from Marx's 1984 Manuscripts to enable you to feel and understand the idea of alienation in Marx's own words. Now see this passage from 1844 manuscript, talking about alienation of the worker. Marx is saying this. First, the fact that labor is external to the worker, that is, it does not belong to his essential being, that in his work, therefore, he does not affirm himself but denies himself, does not feel content but unhappy, does not develop freely his physical and mental energy but mortifies his body and ruins his mind. The worker therefore only feels himself outside his work, and in his work feels outside himself. He is at home when he is not working, and when he is working, he is not at home. His labor, therefore, is not voluntary, but coerced. It is forced labor. It is, therefore, not the satisfaction of a need. It is merely a means to satisfy needs external to it. See how lyrical the entire passage is. If you want to write it down, you can pause the video for a moment and then take a screenshot or write it. In this passage, he's telling how in capitalist society labor is something which the worker starts hating and starts running away from it. So when he is doing labor, because it is a forced labor, not something which he does out of volition, out of love for it, but it is something forced. When it is forced, yeah, that is the reason why he hates the work and avoids the work as much as possible. Because this is not something, this labor is not something that he is doing for satisfaction of his own needs. Rather, he is doing it to satisfy some needs external to himself. So this is what it means. And similar passage again from Manuscripts, he says, the external character of labor for the worker appears in the fact that it is not his own but someone else's, that it does not belong to him, that in it he belongs not to himself but to another. In capitalist society, whether the worker is working in a factory or in mine or in construction industry, he is not working in order to create something for himself. He is actually working for the capitalist. So that is the reason why he never owns what he produces. And naturally, he does not feel himself when he is doing that work. There is another passage where Marx says, man, the worker, no longer feels himself to be freely active in any but his animal functions: eating, drinking, procreating, or at most in his dwellings and in his dressing up, etc. And in his human functions, he no longer feels himself to be anything but an animal. What is animal becomes human, and what is human becomes animal. Certainly, eating, drinking, procreating, etc. are also genuine human functions. But in the abstraction which separates them from the sphere of all other human activity and turns them into sole and ultimate ends, they are animal. See this beautiful passage where he's telling how, what is it that separates human beings from animals? Human beings are not just satisfied with eating, drinking, procreating. They love many things other than that. They love music. They love to read. They love to travel. They love to play. or they love to love. But all these human activities now become secondary. And only that which is common to animals, that becomes more important. So we don't care for other human activities that actually makes us human and makes us something different from animals. Rather, now we give up all those human activities and be satisfied with just mere eating, drinking and procreating, or at best living at home and dressing up. And that is how we try to express ourselves, and we feel happy when we do that. So that is where Marx shows that in capitalist society, animal becomes human or human becomes animal. Now I come to another passage where I was telling in the previous lecture. Why is it that the worker don't work? And that is what all capitalists complain. These workers don't work. Or our nations, always the government say, don't go on for any strike. It will affect the production. It will create problem for the government. But why do the worker halt work and run away from work? Here is the passage which gives perhaps answers for such queries. Here goes Marx. The more the worker spends himself, the more powerful the alien objective world becomes, which he creates over against himself. The poorer he himself, his inner world becomes, the less belongs to him as his own. The worker puts his life into the object, but now his life no longer belongs to him, but to the object. Hence, the greater his activity, the greater is the worker's lack of objects. Whatever the product of his labor is, he is not. Therefore, the greater is this product, the less is he himself. In the capitalist societies, there is no guarantee that if the worker works more, he will get more. It is very much possible that the worker produces more and he gets less. And that is something which you can explain through this one. You produce more and there will be overproduction, and the capitalist is not able to sell these products. Then what happens? The capitalist will remove him from work. So it is the reward that he gets for producing more. Or a worker, through his efforts, creates or invents a machinery. But the same machinery, instead of easing his labor process, it actually may take away his work altogether. So it is that, there is no guarantee that the worker works more so he gets more. That's why he starts hating that work. whom he cannot identify himself. Then there is another aspect of which he says, where money becomes so important that all our efforts will be to see how we can earn money. And in course of that we neglect others. So here Marx says, the less you eat, drink, and read books, the less you go to the theater, the dance hall, the public house, the less you think, love, theorize, sing, paint, fence, etc. The more you save, the greater becomes your treasure, which neither moths nor dust will devour your capital. The less you are, the more you have. The less you express your own life, the greater is your alienated life. The greater is the store of your estranged being. See this beautiful passage. In the capitalist society, all of us, all our activities will be geared to earn money, to save money, and to accumulate capital. So for that, we give up many other activities which makes us human. You will see, all of us know, our own parents telling us, why do you waste time? Why do you always play? Why do you waste time in singing or reading novels and storybooks? All are waste. Stop that. Concentrate only on education. Get more marks. Get into a professional courses and that good job and earn more money. That is what we have been told. So all our efforts will be to get job, to earn more money, earn more, what you can say, profit or wealth. And we believe that that wealth is going to help us. We don't trust anybody. We don't entertain anyone. We even run away from friends and relatives. And we accumulate everything, and we think that which is accumulated, that is estranged labor, that will protect us, and not the human beings. And that is how we get alienated, not only from human qualities, but also the fellow human beings. That is what Marx explains in his own way in these passages. And it is here, what is that way that you can get out of this kind of estrangement or alienation? From the relationship of estranged labor to private property, it follows further that the emancipation of society from private property, etc., from servitude, is expressed in the political form of the emancipation of workers. Not that their emancipation alone is at stake, but because the emancipation of the worker contains universal human emancipation, and in it contains this, because the whole of human servitude is involved in the relation of the worker to production, and all relations of servitude are but modifications and the consequences of this relation. In this passage, Marx says that there is if one has to overcome alienation, there is a need for getting out of the clutches of this institution of private property. This is necessary not just for the emancipation of the worker. This is necessary for the emancipation of the whole humanity. I told you in the last lecture, it is not just that the worker suffers in this capitalist society. The entire human relations gets distorted, leading to suspicion, or what you can say, the mental tensions, stress, crimes. So that is something which is getting expressed in different forms, involving all sections of the people. So at this moment it is true that workers are fighting against this alienation, and for that they have to fight and get out of the clutches of the institution of private property. It is necessary for them. But when they are doing that, that is something which others also need to support, because that fight is something which will liberate not only the worker but the entire human race. I stop here, and I recommend that you read one of these chapters, and which is titled as Estranged Labor in Marx's this economic and philosophical manuscripts of 1844. Only one chapter you read and you will see other things, all other things which Marx is telling about alienation. In addition to that, you can also read these books which I found it useful. One is Shlomo Avineri, his book The Social and Political Thought of Karl Marx. In this also there is a chapter, it is chapter 4, and you just read the chapter 4 which talks about the alienation from private property. And there is also a very good book thing which discusses in detail Marx's concept of alienation. It is called, the author is Bertel Ollman. The title of the book is Alienation, Marx's Concept of Man in Capitalist Societies. In addition to that, you can also go through some of the articles which you will find in, if you Google it. One is Judy Cox, his article, An Introduction to Marx's Theory of Alienation. So I'm showing the URL, so you can take a snap or write it down. So also there is another uh, this one web page in Marxist.org. It's called Marxism and Alienation, where different writers writing about alienation, including the modern writers who spoke about alienation. All the references you will find, you will access to that. But you only, for this moment, you can only click the sources, Marxist sources on the alienation. Other things, if you are interested, you can look at it to understand how this alienation works in modern society as well. So I hope this is enough for the day, and thank you very much, and we'll meet in the next class taking some other aspect of Marxist political theory.